you got your Bibles, go ahead and turn to Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. If you don't have a Bible, I highly recommend the YouVersion app. It's a free app. It's got lots of different Bible translations. It'll even read it to you as well. I'll even let you download it right now in church. You can use your smartphone in church. Isn't that a great church we're a part of? While you're doing that, I want to tell you a story about Dr. Henry Cloud. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that name, but he's one of the premier psychiatrists in the country today. He wrote a book called Boundaries. It's fabulous, and he's a great author, speaker. And he had this quote where he said, if there's something you're telling yourself you're going to do, and yet you're not doing it, well, you won't actually do it. And I agree with that quote. And then he goes on to tell of a time when he did what many of us probably do, where he takes a look in the mirror, and he didn't really like what he saw. He had been traveling a lot, and he'd been real busy with different things. Probably hadn't been eating as healthy as he should have been. Probably hadn't been exercising the ways we all know we should do. And so he decided to do something about it. He decided to get a personal trainer, and he decided to start working out more regularly and watching what he ate. Well, he did that, and about a week into it, a lot of intense training, and as you know, whenever you start something new, you get a little sore, you feel better about yourself, but it's kind of tiring. And after about a week, he looked at his trainer, and he had this realization. He said, he's like, I forgot to take the before pictures. You know those pictures you take before you start something, so when you get done afterwards, you can see the difference in the results? And the trainer just smiled at him and looked at him and said, well, you actually still can. Which probably wasn't what he wanted to hear, but in the same sense, that's what I'll say to you guys about this year so far. If you've started out this year and you're already kind of discouraged, I just want to encourage you. And I want to say, look, after a week, you're probably not going to see a lot of results, and that's okay. 2019 is going to be a great year for us. If you were not here last week, I would highly encourage you to go to our website, yankton.church. You can also go to our YouTube channel, and you can watch the message from last week. And really, last week was kind of setting up this next series that we're in. It's called Fitness. And as a church, we want to be spiritually fit. So we're going to talk about what that means. Now, part of that is physical fitness as well. We have a week where we're going to talk about physical fitness, and I'm excited about that. But again, as a church, looking at us, how spiritually fit are we? And if you're a guest, again, how spiritually fit are you? We're going to look at different areas. We're going to look at relationships. We're going to look at how we can have spiritually healthy relationships with one another. We're going to look at money. And I'm not going to tell you which week that is, so you guys will come, all right? So we're a church that we talk about money. How do we want to be spiritually fit with our money? Our physical body, I already mentioned that as well. And then in our faith. And while we're doing this, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the most spiritually fit person who ever lived. And that's Jesus Christ. Now, I hope you didn't think it was you. It's not. It was Jesus. So I'm in Luke chapter 2. Go to verse 52. It's on your notes as well. It's going to be on the screen. I would like us to read this verse together out loud, nice and loud. So Luke 2:52. And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. I want you to take a minute and I want you to circle that word grew. If you have your Bible, circle it in your Bible. If you got it on your notes, circle it in your notes. I think that's an interesting word. Jesus grew. Those are two words that we don't typically put together when you think about it. Jesus grew. If there was anyone who had ever lived and would have said, I've arrived, like I've made it, I'm probably got everything figured out, don't you think it probably would have been Jesus? And the simple fact that the Bible says that Jesus continued to grow as well should challenge us, because we should try to grow as well. You know, and there's two ways that we kind of hide behind Jesus sometimes. And I've done this myself. The first way we might say is, well, I could never be perfect. You know, Jesus was perfect, and I could never do that. I can fail. And that's true, but a lot of times we hide behind that, and we allow those excuses to continue with behavior that we know is not okay. And we justify it by saying, well, again, nobody's perfect. But the other way that we can hide behind that is when we kind of stay locked in our guilt and in our sin, where we say, I will never be perfect. See, I don't even know why I tried, because I continue to fail. And both of those mindsets are dangerous, and we need to be careful about that, because we are free from sin. Jesus took care of that on the cross, and if you surrendered your life to Christ, you're a new creation. You don't need to stay trapped in your past or in the guilt and the shame that you might feel. But the other thing is also true. We need to constantly be growing and moving. I don't care if you've been a follower of Jesus Christ for 5 minutes or 50 years. We all have things that we need to grow because fitness is always in motion. And that's the thing we want to talk about. So we're going to walk through that. And I'll just say this. We can still take the before pictures. That's great, right? We can still do that. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do something a little different. I want you to go ahead and take out your smartphones. Again, giving you permission to do this in church. If you have one, go ahead and take it out. And I want you to go ahead and take a selfie. All right? Now, if somebody's sitting next to you and you want to put them in there, you can do the whole, put it together thing. Go ahead and do it. I want you to do it because we're going to take our before pictures as a church, all right? And then when you're done doing that, I want you to text it to our church number. Our church number is 679-7224. It's on your CFL. Go ahead and text that picture to our church, because we can do that, all right? So we're going to take, this is our before pictures as a church. I had this other thought, too. I was like, you know how when babies are kind of growing up, now it's kind of the thing where you lay them down on, a blanket, and you put, a number beside them, if they're 9 months old, put a little 9 beside them, and you list all the things that they can do, right? I thought about doing that for us as a church, right? Because we're 9 months old now, so we can put, little things about us as a church. I don't know. That's just where I'm at. So I think about things sometimes that are kind of fun. But my point is, when it gets to be the end of 2019, are we doing better than we were today? And that's what we want to do. Because here's the thing, church, I don't want you to miss this. What if we truly believed that God was in control? What if we actually thought that God had purposed and planned everyone in this room for this very moment? And He planned that before the beginning of the earth. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing is an accident. You are here right now today because God wanted you to be here. And He wants to hear the promises that you have, that He has for your life. But God's up to something. But before we do that, each one of us need to be spiritually fit. I mentioned this already. Personally, in your life group, and corporately as a church, what does that look like to be spiritually fit? There's a man by the name of Ken Boa. And he said something that I think was great. He said, there is no spiritual fitness in the Christian body apart from the discipline of self-control. Spiritual fitness is not instantaneous or haphazard. How many of us wish it were? Just like that, and you can be spiritually fit. It must be developed and refined. And there's our word. If you were here last week, we talked about this. Our word for 2019 as a church is the word refine. We want to clarify. We want to go deeper. We want to grow and get healthy. So how many of you in this room can tell me what is the number one New Year's resolution? Anybody know what it is? Lose weight, right? Eat right, get healthy, those types of things. Well, to get spiritually fit, it's the same way. 1 Timothy chapter 4, it says, train yourself to be godly. This doesn't come naturally to us. We need to work at it, just as Jesus did when He was on the earth. Verse 8 says, for physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise both for the present life and the life to come. You know, bodily fitness is a good thing. We should all take care of our bodies. And again, we're going to talk about that one of these weeks because we need to be doing that. But it's so much more important to be spiritually fit because that will last throughout the earth. You know, when you die, whether you're in shape or out of shape, that's going to happen for every one of us someday. And when we get to that part, how are we going to live our eternity and do that? But the thing about spiritual fitness that I don't want you to miss, it's exactly like physical fitness in one key way. The most important aspect of physical fitness is cardio. Your heart is the most important muscle in your body, and you need to work your heart. You need to do that. And any physical trainer will tell you, if you want to get in shape, you start with the heart. You start with the cardio. It's the same in the spiritual world as well. We have to start with the heart. If we want to get spiritually fit, our hearts need to be like Jesus. So if you got your notes, they're in your CFL there. I want you to go ahead and take them out. And we're going to look at today, to kind of set up this series, we're going to take a look at 2 keys to developing a heart like Jesus. And these are very simple. Here's the first one. We must care about the things Jesus cared about. We must care about the things Jesus cared about. Ephesians 5 says, and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave Himself up for us. I have a question for you. What was the thing that Jesus cared about most when He was on His time on planet Earth? Anybody know? It was people. That's what He cared about more than anything else. He cared about people. Luke 19, He says this exactly. For the Son of Man came to seek and save that which was lost. You know, I heard this statistic a couple years ago, and it just broke my heart. 89%. 89% of Christians. Now, this is not like people who say, I believe in God. All right? These are like church-going, every Sunday, serving faithfully Christians. 89% believe the church exists for them. 89%. That means only 11% of people who are part of a church recognize that church has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with we are God's plan A. We are His mission to go out into the world and reach people with that. And if you disagree with that, that's fine. I love you, but I just can't find that in my Bible. It says we're supposed to go out and we're supposed to reach other people. That's the heart of what we're supposed to do. And again, I just come back to, if your child was lost, if you have a child and you've ever experienced that panic of not knowing where your kid is, and there's families today that have no idea where their children are, I guarantee you, you would get up and you would go find them. You would do everything you can to try to get them back. Or even better said, if you had a child that had a medical condition, and they needed once a week, they needed to go to a hospital, and they needed to get a treatment, or else they would die. How many of you would make that a priority? I think that would be the top priority. I was thinking, what would be more important than that in my life? I can't think of what that is. But yet sometimes we think that church on Sunday is optional. I just don't get that. I don't understand that. The number one way that we can reach people in our community is to bring them here with us on Sunday. And last week I talked about this, where I said our challenge that I've given you for 2019 is 52. There are 52 Sundays in 2019, and I challenge you to try to be in church all of those weekends. Now, as soon as I say that, I totally get there's going to be pushback. I understand that. And this is what I just want to clarify what I mean by that. If you're in town, be around. Okay? If you're here, try to be here. I realize you're going to travel and you're going to go places. And I'm going to do something that a church planting pastor should never do. Okay? I'm going to break the rules. You guys okay with that? Sometimes I break the rules. I'm actually going to be gone next Sunday. You're never supposed to say that in church, because then people will automatically think, oh, the pastor's gone, so I won't be there next week. I don't get that. I don't understand that. So please don't do that. But here's why I'm telling you that. I'm not going to be here every single week. But when we're gone, we still make it an intentional part to go to a church and be part of a church family. Elaine and I are going to be going to a church next weekend. We're actually not only just going to attend it, we're going to serve there, because we want to grow, we want to learn, and we want to get better at that. That's what we should do. So if you're out of town, find a church. If you don't know of one, ask me and say, hey, we're going to be traveling to this town. Do you have a church that you can recommend so you can come and be a part of that? But again, I understand. There's people that work. We need police officers. Would you agree with that? We need doctors. We need firemen. All of those people that have those 24/7 jobs that sometimes fall on Sunday. I totally get that. That's exactly why we put all of our messages online. You go to yankton.church or our website, our YouTube, Celebrate Yankton, you can watch the messages. Or let's say you go through a rough patch, and let's say you don't feel like coming some Sundays and you miss out on that. Go back and watch it again. I said this last week. I guarantee you, this week you probably watched a movie. I guarantee you, most of us in this room either watched a movie or watched TV. Take 30 minutes and watch the video and catch up so we can get that, because Jesus cares about lost people, and so should we. And this is the best way we can do that, is to be here. The most famous verse in the Bible is John 3:16. It's going to be on the screen. It's also in your notes. And again, let's go ahead and read this verse together. For God so loved the world that He gave. You know, I noticed something about this verse. I've known this verse since I was a little kid. I noticed something about this verse that I never noticed before. And I want you guys to play along with this, okay? If you're sitting next to somebody who you love, all right, I'm going to ask you to do something. Now, if somebody here that you don't know, you can go ahead and pull out your phone, okay? And you can text them this. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to say to the person that you love, or the person you're going to text. You guys ready? Okay, go ahead and turn to them. And I want you to tell them, I love you. And again, if they're not in the room, text them. Say, I love you. Okay? Now, same thing. I want you to look at the same person again. And instead of saying I love you, I want you to say this to them. I so love you. See the difference? God didn't just love us. God so loved us. He so loved the world. See, I think it's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Let me help you with this. Sympathy sees a hurt and expresses an emotion. Okay? I heard that something bad happened. I'm going to reach out to you and say, wow, I'm really sorry that happened. I want to express my condolences. Maybe you send a card. That's sympathy. This is what empathy does. Empathy gets in the hurt with that person. It enters into that hurt, and it stays there with them. I've said it before that your presence, not your words, are what comforts people in time of sorrow. When you go with somebody and you be there with them in that pain, that's where we show true love. And just think about this from God. When God saw our condition, He didn't send us a card and say, wow, I heard you're dying, go to hell. Sorry about that. Love you, and send a card. He actually came down and lived with us. We just got done celebrating that throughout Christmas, where Jesus came and got down in our hurt and got down in our pain, and He loved us because He didn't just love us. He so loved us. He didn't want us to be separated from Him, and that's why He did that. And I understand there's a big reason why most people don't do that. And it's very simple. People are messy. Can we agree on that? People are messy. And when you get involved in somebody's life, sometimes it can be frustrating. Sometimes it can be up, down, left, right. It can be exhausting. It can be tough. Relationships can be tough. But here's what I'm going to ask. Everyone in this room, and I'm going to challenge you, if you've been part of this church for a while, who is someone in your life? Because I guarantee you there's someone that you can show love to. That you can step out in faith and you can love them right where they're at. I just heard a story last night about somebody in our church, and they found out that one of their kids' friend is their family's going through some just terrible medical stuff. And they stepped up to the plate and they're loving this family and they're doing stuff for them. And I was just like, yes, that's what it means to be the church, guys. Do that. You can't do it for everybody. I get that. But who can you do that for? Who can you show love to? Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus cared about people, and He wants us to be the light to them. But here's the second thing that we need to know about understanding Jesus' heart. And I'm going to argue that I think this is probably more important than the first one. Okay, we talked about we need to care about the things Jesus cared about. Here's number 2. We must not care about the things Jesus didn't care about. This may surprise you to believe it. There were some things that Jesus didn't care about. Now, He loves everybody. He loves everything. He's a creator. I get that. But when He was on planet Earth, if you look at the 4 Gospels we have of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there are a lot of things that we can pick out of there, what Jesus did, but even more things we can pick out of what He didn't do and what He didn't care about. So I have 3 things that Jesus didn't care about that just I pulled out. Here's the first one He didn't care about. He didn't care about personal danger. There's a time when Jesus was in a boat with His disciples. There was a group of people that followed Jesus around. Out of that group of people, there were 12 that He selected to pull in close to Him and really walk with Him. We call them disciples. And these 12 and Jesus were out on a boat in the middle of a lake. And this giant storm came up. And it was really bad. And obviously they were scared out of their minds. And Jesus was sleeping through the whole thing. And one of His friends, who's named Peter, one of His close friends, wakes Jesus up. And he's kind of mad at Jesus. He's like, Jesus, we're going to die. This boat's going to go down. And they're all freaking out, just like we do in life sometimes when we face these challenges. And Jesus is just like, like he's just totally calm. And it was frustrating him. And Jesus got up and He calmed the storm. You know why? Because He created it. I think if we got that, guys, we'd understand. He is in control. He's got it. Why are we freaking out? And that's what He said to His disciples. Why are you freaking out? Now, to me, that's a little bit of comfort because Jesus was actually physically there and they were freaking out. So sometimes when we don't see Jesus in the room with us and we start freaking out, we can feel a little better about that, okay? But just understand, we don't need to do that. God's got it. He didn't care about His personal danger. This is another thing that Jesus did. When He was with His disciples, they were going to Jerusalem. 3 times. He pulled them aside and said, guys, I need to tell you something. Come here. He pulled these 12 real close to Him. And He said, listen, here's what's going to happen. We're going to go to Jerusalem. And they said, Jesus, the last time we went to Jerusalem, they tried to kill you. Jesus said, I know. And we're going back there again. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, okay? Here's what's going to happen. All of you guys are going to abandon me, okay? I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be executed. But then 3 days later, I'm going to be raised from the dead. Got it? And Peter again. We love Peter, right? Peter pulls Jesus aside. Jesus, come here. I don't think this is a very good plan. Isn't that great? And Jesus is just like, you don't get it. You don't understand. This is what I came here to do. And it's so crazy. He told them that 3 times. He didn't care about personal danger. There are so many things in life that we worry about. Things that might happen, things that might go, and we waste so much time on that, guys, because it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this. Right now in this country, we have the freedom to gather and worship as we can. There's so many countries around the world where they don't have that ability. And I want to tell you something. If that ever changes in this country, which it could, and it could become illegal to be a Christian, and something happens and like I would get arrested or even tried or even killed for my faith, I want you to know something. That was a good day. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. Because if I die, guess what? I get to go to heaven and be with Jesus. That's not a bad day. All right? That's okay. And I wish as a country we would understand that and we would stand on those principles and truth, because that's a hard thing to know. But Jesus didn't care about personal danger. So why should I? Here's the second one, and this one's, I think, even bigger for me. Jesus didn't care about people's opinions. He didn't care about people's opinions. It's always intrigued me that the people who really didn't like Jesus very much were all of the, can I say this, church people. All of the religious people really loved Jesus. And all of the people who we say were like the sinners, right? All of the robbers and all of the prostitutes, these guys couldn't get enough of Jesus. They were around him all the time. And they loved him. And Jesus loved them. And then Jesus would look at the religious people and he's like, what's wrong with you guys? And whenever Jesus would condemn somebody, it was always the religious people that he would condemn. Isn't it interesting that how, as a church, we flip that now? We get real comfortable with church people. We like to be in our little circles of people that believe the same things we believe. And then we look at people when they make choices and when they sin and we kind of judge them. We want to push them to a side. Just like I said before, 89% of church people think that the church exists for them. And Jesus, it was the exact opposite. I just think that's interesting. And the reason for that is because Jesus cared more about relationships than he did rules. Now, he loved people and he believes in truth. He created the truth. I'm not saying that you condone behavior. What I'm saying is, can you love somebody in spite of their sin? Can you make that choice even if it costs you something? Even if it costs you in a relationship? Because Jesus didn't care about people's opinions. Here's the last thing that Jesus didn't care about. And this is a hot button, so pray for me right now. It's politics. Jesus didn't care about politics. In Jesus' day, the Roman Empire was basically conquered the entire nation of Israel and kind of held them under their thumb. And there was a misguided thought that Jesus came to free them from Rome. And his disciples, even after he rose from the dead, they said, Jesus, now are you going to overthrow the Romans? He's like, you guys still don't get it. All right? He did not come with a political agenda. Now, I want to say this. I believe that as a Christian in this country, you should vote. Please vote. And I hope that you feel very passionately about your views and your opinions. Please, please hear that. I really do hope that you feel that way, because I do as well. But I'm going to say something, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the defense, but where we're at today in this country, if I don't say anything about it, I'm not doing my job as a pastor, okay? Jesus Christ was not a Democrat. All right? Now, before all my Fox News friends are amening that, hold on for that for a minute, okay? Because Jesus was not a Republican either. All right? Last time I checked, the government sits on his shoulders. All right? He's the Prince of Peace and the Lord of Lords. And I get so frustrated sometimes with Christians who say, you know, man, if we could just get the right guy in the White House, then everything would be all right. Can I tell you something, the truth? If Jesus Christ himself sat in the White House, you know what he would do? He would look to the church and he would say, what are you guys doing? Because you're my body. You're supposed to be my hands and feet. What are you doing about it? Stop looking to Washington, D.C. I don't care who controls the House. I don't care who controls the Senate. My God is in charge of this world. And I'm not getting enough amens right now, because that's good stuff right there, all right? That is true. Jesus didn't care about politics. I think you should be involved. I think you should care. But don't waste a lot of time and energy doing that. Because here's what I see, and this is what breaks my heart where I'm going with this. It just creates division. It tears families apart. It tears fellow believers apart because of things that Jesus is like, why are you guys wasting time? And then we have a world that's dying and going to hell. And we wonder why that's happening. Jesus didn't care about politics. He cared about people. If you're still in Luke, I want you to go to Luke chapter 9. And this is going to be up on the screens, and I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to go to one of those passages that's kind of difficult. You guys know what I'm talking about? If you've ever read the Bible and you've kind of read something, you're like, I don't really get that. Can I tell you something? That's okay. Sometimes there's stuff in the Bible that's hard to read. And so we're going to look at one of those difficult passages, but I want you to look at it in a completely different way. So in Luke 9, verse 59, it'll be up on the screens as well. Jesus said to another man, "Follow me." But the man replied, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." And this is the hard part. Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God." Ouch. We're going to come back to that, so hold on to that for a second. Still another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family." Jesus replied, "No one that puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." Those are hard verses to learn. Now, Jesus is not saying here you should care about your family. Please don't take that way. Okay? This is what I'm saying. There's a key phrase in those two statements that the people said to Jesus that I don't want you to miss. I think they're highlighted too as well. They're bolded on your notes. Lord, first let me. Lord, first let me. See, whenever you say Lord first, that's actually an oxymoron. You guys know what oxymoron is? It's where you put two words together that don't go together. For example, like an open secret, right? Clearly confused. How about Microsoft Works? That's my favorite one, right? Okay? We can never say, Lord, let me first. Because we're saying, Jesus, you're Lord. Jesus doesn't want to be first place in your life. He wants to be your life. He wants you to completely surrender to Him. So how can you do that and then look at Jesus and say, but Lord, first let me? Because that's what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to be our focus. And I think where we get in trouble as a church is sometimes we focus on my problems. We focus on my time. It's my time. God, I don't know if I can be there every Sunday because my time is valuable to me. How about my money? God, I work hard for my money, and God, I want to pay these bills, and I want to have a nice house, I want to drive a nice car. And God, I swear, if there's anything left over, I'll give it to you. God doesn't want your leftovers. What is the Lord let me first in your life? And we're going to talk about that throughout this series. What is that thing that you're saying, Lord, first let me? Because we need to change that heart. And I want to get real personal here for just a minute. There's so many people who are part of this church who have done so many incredible and amazing things. And I'm so blessed to be your pastor. And I love all of you. So what I'm about to say, I pray that you will take with a heart of not condemnation, but there's a fact that I have to point out. And I think it brings this home. There is no person on planet Earth who has done more for the health and the growth of this church than my wife, Elaine. And she's sitting right there. Because, see, everything that I've done to this point as the pastor of this church has only been as a result of her. Because, you see, we moved down here about a year and a half ago from Sioux Falls. And you might not know this, but she had an amazing career there. It was in ministry. She was doing God's work. We had just bought our dream house. And we were getting it all set up and ready to go. And then God said Yankton. And all I had to say to her was, honey, God's calling us to plant a church in Yankton. You know what she said? Let's go. Who does that? Who does that? Who gives that up? And the only negative thing she's ever said about Yankton is, I wish they had a Target. And, you know, all God's women say amen, right? You know, I'm just, okay. But here's where I'm going with this. I couldn't do what I do without her. She's done so much for me and for the life of this church, and I'm so grateful for her. I don't know how you spent your Saturday yesterday. I don't know what you did. It was a beautiful day. You know what she was doing? From the time she got up, she was working for you guys, and you don't know that. And I usually have her permission to share this stuff. I have not her permission at all today, so I'm probably in trouble, so pray for me, but it needs to be said. Because I'm up here on stage, and you guys see me a lot, and you don't get to see her. And you don't get to see the sacrifice that she makes every day. And she was working for you guys. And she made lunch for us, and she kept working some stuff. We're gone next weekend, like I said, and whenever you're gone, it's usually more work than when you're here. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff to get done and do. And we got to the end of the day, and I was like, hey, let's go out for supper. So she didn't have to worry about that. We got back about 8 o'clock after supper. And from 8 o'clock last night until 1 o'clock in the morning, she was doing stuff to get ready so you guys could come in here, free from distractions. And then I would be prepared to stand up here and do this message. Who does that? Who does that? Lord, first let me is not even in her vocabulary. And I wonder how many of us, myself included, if we had that heart, what would this church look like? What would this church look like? I guarantee you, we knocked that wall down, this room would be filled, this building probably wouldn't be big enough. There probably wouldn't be a building in Yankton big enough to hold it. And again, please hear my heart. I'm not trying to diss anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody on the defense. I'm just pointing out and on the bottom of your notes, there's a line that says my action point. And right now, I want you to think about, what's your Lord first let me? Because we all have one. What is that thing that's keeping you down right now and holding you back and saying, Lord, I want to follow you. I want to be all in, but first let me. You can't do it. You can't have it both ways. You got to do that. And maybe for some of you in this room, maybe for the very first time, you need to make that decision to be committed to Christ. Maybe you've done it before. Maybe you said, yeah, I really want to do this, but life happens. Things come up. So let's go ahead and go to a time of prayer. And I just want you to take a moment and just reflect on that. What is that thing for you? What are the things that Jesus cared about? He cared about people. Maybe there's a person that God can put on your heart right now that needs to know him, that you can just pour into and love them. Maybe there's some things you're doing that, quite honestly, they're not bad, but maybe you need to stop doing them. Maybe you need to make a commitment to be here, not just to come on Sundays, but maybe you want to step up and say, hey, I want to help live out my God-designed purpose. I want to lead. I want to grow. I want to give my gifts. What is that for you?